And ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer joins me now for more. Brian, what do you make of former White House aide Madeleine Westerhout's testimony so far, and what are you listening for today?
Well, for the prosecution, Westerhout's testimony, at least in my opinion, was good in terms of pushing back on the narrative the defense was trying to create that Donald Trump was a multitasker and at times might be too busy to kind of read the details and signing a check, but focusing on other things. Westerhout brought us some more information about Donald Trump being one that is very particular about his signature, very particular about where he signs and what he's doing. And so I think that pushed back for the prosecution. For the defense, I think going to try to support Donald Trump's character is a misstep because we're seeing that it allows the prosecution to rebut that with other damaging testimony.
Now, Stormy Daniels wrapped up her testimony yesterday after some sparring with the defense on cross-examination. Overall, how strong of a witness do you think she was for the prosecution?
I think she was strong in the sense of pushing back on the narrative that the defense, and I think Judge Marchand hinted at this in ruling on his mistrial, but the defense is pushing back by saying he's a family man, he's a good man, he's trying to hide any information or bad information from his family and not the campaign, so to speak, but also denying the sex altogether. It then allows prosecution to get more details, as the judge said, to establish her credibility. And I think that's what makes her a stronger witness, giving the details of that event, even though the heart of that interaction, or the truth of that interaction, more so to speak, is not really the heart of this case.
Now, the prosecution is no longer planning to put Karen McDougal on the stand. How significant is that? And why do you think they're not calling her as a witness anymore?
So I'll answer it kind of in the inverse, if that's okay. I think they're not calling her because I think Karen McDougal does a lot of what Stormy Daniels does in terms of giving the details of the story that Donald Trump is alleged to have tried to hide from the campaign and from potential voters. And so I think the danger of putting on another witness like that, where there's a lot of contention and I think appropriate questions about whether or not there should be a mistrial, even though I think the judge was correct to deny them. I think putting on Karen McDougal after putting on Stormy Daniels and all of the issues that were risen there, it's probably smart to step back and just focus on the paperwork and the falsification of the documents rather than the stories that led to those actions.
And attorneys for Trump moved for mistrial again yesterday. They also asked for an exception to the gag order to allow Trump to respond to Stormy Daniels' testimony. The defense argued he has a right to respond to the American people. Prosecutors say he can do that in court if he wants. So how tricky is this for the judge, given Trump is a presidential candidate? And what did you make of his decision ultimately to deny both motions?
I think it's extremely tricky. And I went back and I read the decisions and also his reasoning and talking it out with the attorneys. And I think he's right. I think he's right to the point that even if the case is appealed, and I say if because that's if Donald Trump loses, and I think we of course know if he loses, he'll appeal. The reasoning of using Donald Trump's own words through some of his books and some of his writings and some of his speeches about punching back, he says, hey, I'm trying to protect the proceedings. I don't want him to punch back during the proceedings. And for the motion for the mistrial, he's arguing the defense really opened the door to a lot of the issues that the prosecution was able to articulate. So I think they were good rulings.
The prosecution's key witness, Michael Cohen, is expected to testify Monday. What could his testimony mean for this case? And how do you expect the defense to poke holes in that?
Yeah, so I think what it means for the case is it's the lion's share of the case. It's the individual who is doing the handshaking and the deal making and the understanding of what Donald Trump wanted and then kind of executing those marching orders and creating everything that we've learned so far, if you're following the prosecution's case, of the shell company, the payment, the catch and kill, the purpose behind it, the communications with Donald Trump as to why it was occurring. He's the heart of this case in many ways. But for the defense, I think the best way for using the heart analogy, to kind of like poison the heart or stop the heart and kind of kill this case, is to show the lack of credibility that Michael Cohen has. The way he's been out on social media profiting off of Donald Trump's prosecution, the way he's lied and been convicted of lying. I think stopping Michael Cohen from being a credible witness is the biggest point that the defense can make in this case.
All right, legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer, thank you. And we will bring you the latest on the trial as soon as court is back in session this morning.